Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour, number 170 for September 28th, 2023. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator today. I do have a few announcements. Tuesday night coming up is the Lancaster Woodturners monthly meeting, and Henry Fisher is going to demonstrate. He's going to do a slideshow and a demo on how he does his epoxy casting. He gets some beautiful rims on beautiful big bowls. I don't quite know how he does it, but we're going to all find out on Tuesday night. And then not the following Saturday, but the one after that, I think it's the 13th or 14th is the open shop. We've had open shop just show up whoever shows up. And we noticed that the attendance is falling off. So now we're putting in programming at open shop. And that on that occasion, I'm going to be there doing a box clinic, box workshop for anybody who wants to come and talk about boxes with lids that fit. We'll play with that as intensely as we can. And I think also there's going to be some close attention on the roughing down, the spindle roughing gouge, how to use it, how to get the most out of it. I think there's interest on that among some of the beginning turners especially. So open invitation to open shop at our space in New Holland 2 Saturdays from now. Barry probably knows the exact date. I guess it's the 13th. And any other announcements? What's up in Susquehanna, Randy?
Not very much. I'm drawing a blank right at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, this
well,
week,
if it comes to you,
at our coming up meeting, we are going to have a hands-on event, and it will be for turning hollow forms and closed rim bowls.
All right. I think I might
And
attend
of course,
that.
in December, we have our potluck holiday.
As
and
do
that
we.
is always great food. I can't eat all of
it. And we will be doing something the same for the December meeting. We'll also be trying to elect new officers there. We're electing a new treasurer and a new vice president this year. We do them alternate year, 2 officers every year. So this is the year for the treasurer and the vice president. I'm the current treasurer and I'm stepping down. So we're looking for a new treasurer and we're looking for a new vice president. Ben Kaufman is also stepping down. So we'll see who steps up and would like those positions. I see a bunch of nice hands up here, including my own. I've got some stuff I want to show. But first of all, how many of you all went to the Mid-Atlantic? And how many of you all have something you'd like to share that you learned at the Mid-Atlantic? What was the single best thing that went on there for you? Who's going to go first? How about you, Bowman?
Well, I got something that that I did not want to get. I ended up coming back with COVID.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty trash today. I'm pretty sure I picked it up at there. The incubation period worked out about right to when it popped up. So,
sad to hear that.
Yeah, I thought I was a virgin for life, but now I've lost my virginity when it comes to COVID. So, it was good this year. They had a couple really classy, really very interesting people, and I don't know how you manage to do it when you get that many people together, but it felt like it was almost too much. From 8 in the morning till 6 at night, demos. It was just almost too much to absorb. So, but
what was the most interesting? What really rang your bell?
I enjoyed Simon Beck's emergent bowl. I always try to pick something out to bring back and work in my shop, and I liked his emergent bowl. He does a full size 6 or 8 inch bowl with a flat edge emerging out all sides. So I came back and looked up online and ended up finding Mike Peace's way of doing things, and I turned a rough one of that, and I'm going to turn some more. But so, yeah, that was
hold it up?
This
you
thing.
Got it there with you. That thing, okay.
Yeah, this is So what I really liked was Mike used, I happen to have a coring boxing bit just like he did. And that's what he used, and that's what I used to do the inside edge of this.
I've
Um,
never used that. I bought it for that after watching uh I forget his first name, Harold Lampu down in Australia that does those live remotes for record power. I bought one of those box core bits, never used it again. Boy, that thing is rough hollowing with.
yeah, I
Well,
bought one years ago to make amplifier boxes that I could drop my phone in, and that was the speaker chambers. But boy, they scare you when you put them on a router and they're spinning at a terrible fast rate. So I felt a little more safe with it in the lathe on the lathe tailstock. Yeah.
there
So
was the current issue of the journal has a whole big story on fixtures that you can mount on your tool rest post to mount routers and attack the bowl from different angles. And it's the same sort of thing we've been talking about for a while here. So it must be out there in the air. Who else went to Mid-Atlantic and has something that they would share of what they saw? Barry, how about you?
The biggest thing for me was watching Eric Lofstrom's presentation on the skew. It just opened my eyes. Hopefully I could execute 1/3 of what he does, but he showed the various kinds of cuts, the body stance or dance, if you will, and it was just very entertaining and very enlightening. I'm going to go back to his website and look again at how he holds the skew and how he introduces it to the wood for different cuts. He made at the end of the presentation, he did a spinning top that was done in the reverse manner, which I had been shown. It was basically the stem was turned first on the outside, and it was a tapered stem to facilitate faster spinning. And then he cut the cone and finally freed it up. But the entire thing took him about 3 minutes to make. And the finish he achieved with the skew, it was like shiny wood all over. I think you'd be wasting your time taking 220 grit to it. And he spun it on the table right side up and upside down. And it just spun like it had a metal point to it. Just an amazing demonstration.
Lofstrom's a terrific teacher. I've seen him, known him for a couple of years. He's really, really good. Who else? Who else was there and got something wonderful? How about you, Vasco?
Yeah, that was the big thing was I got to see a lot of the Zoom stars that are at the Lancaster Club. And just meeting everybody that I'd seen on screen and I'd never met before was a lot of fun. And by the way, Barry has some great dance moves. I was at that same demonstration. He was incredible. I think one of the things I liked the most was seeing Simon Begg and Roberto Ferrer, and they were enthusiastic young turners, and they had some really great ideas, and it kind of showed me that, hey, maybe I can start trying to do some of this embellishment stuff that they're doing. It was pretty cool to watch them work.
Okay. Who else? Ziegler, how about you? You were there.
Well, I was going to say what Barry said. I like Eric's instructions, the way he went through everything in great detail. To say he's passionate, I think, is an understatement. I went to several of his sessions, and his the bowls that he paints inside are pretty remarkable too. He is like fanatical for details. He left behind a couple of skew demonstrations, and I was looking at the finishes of them, and as Barry said, they're shiny. He actually had a demonstration piece where he sanded 1 to 600, I think, and another bead he didn't sand, and the one he didn't sand was actually better because the wood fibers were sharp and crisp and couldn't be any smoother, so there's no need to sand it. So as part of show and tell, it's not because it's a great piece, but I went out to the shop and I tried to use the skew as he did, not with much success. But you recall a couple of weeks ago, I was down in North Carolina painting my mother-in-law's deck and putting up a mailbox. And I had a cedar mailbox post, and so I took the cutoff from the post and I brought it back here, and I tried to turn a snowman using Eric's techniques, and I just got catch after catch. I think maybe the angle on my skew is not, it's too severe. But anyhow, I agree with Barry. His Eric's body mechanics are amusing. I don't know if he's that accentuated when he actually works in his own shop. I'm guessing he is, but I don't think I'm going to be turning barefooted like he does.
Yeah, I wouldn't turn barefoot either. I'm liable to drop the skew on my toe point down.
I know how that feels.
Anybody else who was at the Mid-Atlantic wants to give us a little report? Bruce, you were there, I think.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things about the skew talk. It was a different approach. He also highly depends on a radius skew, which is a little different than a lot of others try and do. And it enables him to do a couple of cuts that you really couldn't do without that. But it probably also makes a few things a little harder too. So I don't know. It was very entertaining. Roberto, I enjoyed a lot, and I enjoyed that he takes a lathe and turns it into an ornamental lathe. And I still chuckle at the title of his talk, which was a simple way to make wall turnings. And when he got to the third level of his jig, I was thinking, this is not so simple. But in truth, the process that he uses was fairly straightforward. But the prep and the jigs and such are not so straightforward. But again, you got to love a guy who's really trying to create some new things the way he is. It was an interesting days. I think the speakers landed more towards the side of art than craft, and that's not unusual for, I think, what we are seeing today in this country. But there certainly was a mix of things, and I had fun, and I had fun seeing all the Lancaster people that are on this screen and some others that I hadn't met before. So it's a good time.
How about you? Let's see, who else was there? Booter, you were there, I think. Toby?
Yes, I was there. I picked up a lot of individual techniques, not making a full piece, just how to use the tool and why to use it and how not to use it, not that kind of thing. The other part I liked about the symposium was in the vendors room, they had in the back, they had a couple in between demonstrations, they had another section where they had demonstrations. And there were two women there decorating things. And also, when I was there, at least, Simon Begg was there demonstrating something on the lathe. But you got to actually talk to him about other things, not just wood turning, but what's life like in Australia and what are the difference. And it really got personal. So I enjoyed that part of it too.
Anybody else? Well, I think all that testifies that the Mid-Atlantic is a great event, and anybody who can go should go. I wish I had been able to go this year. I will be there next year. I had family here from far away, and that kept me pretty busy. My grandniece Valentina is 3 years old. I mean, she took all my attention. Yeah. So, okay, let's do the shows and tells. Let's hear from Duxbury. We haven't seen him in a while, and I got some people who approached me off the YouTube, said, "Hey, bring it. What happened to Duxbury? Where's Duxbury?" So I'm glad he's here at least today. Duxbury, what would you like to show us?
Okay, I'll do a screen share here real quick. In traveling around the country, I see a lot of these different lathes, and some of these are fascinating. The old timers build these things. This is on Notch's Trace. It runs from Mississippi up through Tennessee. It's a park. There's a lot of history to this, but one of the pioneer villages they've got there had a back porch with this lathe on it, and really interesting. Some of the craftsmanship, you know, the Morris antennas and and the way they put it together. This thing here, there's two drawers in front of me here. This drawer here hinges. It's got an actual hinge on the end of it. It's kind of like a cabinet door that hinges out. And they always got a bent nail in the corner of them. I don't know what they do with that. But anyway, this thing could actually be used. But I think they took out, it has two pedals and a huge flywheel. They actually took the connecting rods out of here, I think, so somebody doesn't use it. But it even has 3 speeds. If you look close at this, you could get 3 different speeds out of it or something. I just find it fascinating.
What's the 2 pedals all about?
Well, you can press, the crankshaft is at 90 degrees. So when one's up, the other one's down. So you work both pedals rather than one pedal. And
so you like change feet in a kind of a dance, a pedal.
Hey, that beats that pole dance you do with you ever do a pole lathe where you stand on one leg and pump with the other? I don't know how they did that, but this you use both feet sitting down, I'm sure, and turn up above here. But there's 3 speeds on that thing. But anyway, the craftsmanship's unreal. And for people that didn't have plans, I don't know how they do this stuff. But anyway, and then in North Carolina, we were down in Wilmington a couple of weeks ago. North Carolina was the center for the railroad hubs in Wilmington. It's right by the ocean, and they had shipping from there, so all the railroads met there, and they had the shipping and everything. It worked out great. They moved it to, I don't know, somewhere in Florida. But anyway, they got a great museum, and in front of the museum right here is this big gray lathe, and it's really interesting. This doggone thing, if I had more time, I'd make this work. I'll tell you, it just like you could turn anything on this.
Well, that would be for touring up wheels for trains, wouldn't it? For rail cars?
I'm sure all kinds of things. Yeah, I don't know how it was driven. I finally figured out where the reversing lever is, and this was a big wooden wheel. It might have been driven from overhead on with a wooden belt, or maybe that's the hand wheel. I don't know, but sure looked like fun.
That looks like the power input to me.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere over it. I don't know, but this could actually be used. It's got the cross slide. This is the gearing for the worm screw on the feed. Anyway, fabulous museum.
Beautiful gizmo.
Yeah. And then this is the old Schwab Mill. That's in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston. This guy came from Switzerland or somewhere, and he understood the use of water and water wheels. And he built this, and he made oval picture frames. I'll show that later. But he did fabulous, made huge oval picture frames and harnessed the stream upriver until the city wanted the water, and then he was out. So then he went to steam, and after that they went to electric. But inside, you could spend a month in here. They do have a new table saw over on the end, or newer metal. The original table saw was built out of white oak. All it had was a couple of pillow blocks and a shaft and a blade on it. The table rolled, and the picture frames are actually, these are picture frames over here. There are dozens of them laying around. The picture frames were actually finger jointed together, and the finger joints were cut with a table saw that had like 8 blades in it with a 1/8 inch spacing. And they would just hold the piece up on end and shove it through there, and it would cut the fingers. And then they glue them together upstairs with a hide glue. Anyway, this is all done with a jack shaft from a steam engine. And this is the oval frame. This whole thing turns and goes up and down on this post. So you wouldn't want to be around if this broke. This goes up through the ceiling above and down through the floor below. And they can turn a 60 by 30, I think, or 60 by 40 oval picture frame on this. All the picture frames were made for the White House, and some of the gorgeous old frames that were made years and years ago with a high glue. This is all glued together, probably in 6 pieces. But each
How
one
fast
of these,
does that thing?
Hmm?
How fast does that thing go, and how much noise does it make?
It makes a lot of noise. It's not high frequency. It's a low frequency thump and crash, and I think it's kind of self-destructs over the years, but it's been there for hundreds of years. The beam up above in back here goes up and down, and then this whole thing goes sideways too. You can only turn from one point. The tool rest is set and welded. It's exactly the center of this where this frame is. And you can only turn at that point. You can't roll your tool up or down. You only turn exactly on center. Each one of these frames has a piece cut out of it, and they have a whole wall with different frame configurations. And when you went in there, you see, I want a 40 by 30 with a number 86 frame style, and they could do the whole thing from that. It's fascinating. It still runs. I don't know if it's this guy or not, but some guy from Maine comes down, I think once or twice a month, and runs this, does a demo on it. But it's amazing how the thing runs. And then this is a Duxbury box, 3-axis box. Actually, it's a 5-axis box. There's 2 axes on the inside of the lid. But
And this is with your little wee chuck that just gives a little block of wood.
The neat part of this chuck is it's intuitive. The other chucks, when you rotate them or you put bolt A in hole C or something, it gives you an offset. But there's no rhyme or reason why, and you lose your indexing when you start changing the offset. This offsets and indexes, and it's intuitive. You can tell what the offset is, and you can tell where it's going to happen.
So for anybody who wasn't here earlier to see the chuck, have you got one on the slideshow that you can hold up?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. This is another one.
You're going to have to go and look at the old videos then, because there's a lot on it earlier.
I could bring it up later. I'll bring it up later,
Okay.
John. This is another one. I've also found that it shows up better when you put stripes in it. Also, when you put a stripe down the middle, it's almost cheating. That gives you, that's so you don't have to put a line down the middle. You know where your indexing is. So you put a thin, if you ever do one of these, put a thin veneer right down the middle or something, because that gives you your indexing without having to lay it out and monkey around. You don't lose it too after you turn. And this is an oval bowl. It's 3-axis. And
Center and then, yeah.
It's a
That's
3-axis.
It's 1 axis is on center on that.
1 axis is on center and 2 around, or 1 around each side. Yeah. You could do 3 or 4, but 2 is the best. It's the most exaggerated. And when you start doing 3 and 4, you get less deviation. This is a 3-axis bottle stopper. I just did a couple of these so you can see what it does. I've got a bottle stoppers with like 3 lobes on them. Each has 3 axes, and each is indexed 120 degrees. So they kind of rotate as they come up. You can make a good living selling these if you could get $200 a piece for them. But
Right.
anyway, this is a 5-axis vase. This is a 7-axis vase. And this is a 9-axis vase. But it's all done on that thing.
Looks like a crankcase.
It's very
Crankshaft.
similar. It's very similar. This is parallel offset. There's angular offset and there's parallel offset. Everything you've seen done here on this chuck is parallel offset, crankshaft wise. I have other ones that are done angular, but that's another whole story.
That wouldn't be that chuck either.
No,
Yeah.
that's it for me.
Hey, questions for Jim?
One comment, one comment on his oval picture frame. I recently saw on This Old House reruns. They did a segment on that factory. Very interesting, fascinating.
On the
Oh,
old
yeah.
Plum Milk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll spend an afternoon there if you go, at least. A lot of the stuff's been lost, but even the glue up room, it was steam driven, steam heated hide glue. And they must have made a lot of picture frames, I'll tell you. It's kind of scary. It's a simple turning. Once you get it all set up, there's almost brain dead turning. You stay right on center, straight in. You can't move. You can move sideways, but you can't move up and down or anything that changes the configuration of the thing where it's happening. So it has to be done. It's very simple turning, but a lot of mechanism, and fabulous the way they figured it out. It'll be running 1,000 years from now, I tell you.
Other questions for Jim? Thank you very much, Dux. It's really good to see you again.
Great to be back.
If you could fetch that chuck, because I think we got some people who are new here might not have seen it.
You got it.
Yeah, thank you. Dilo, what about you? What do you got today?
So you got it there?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so last week I loaded up the truck and put the twins in the truck and went log hunting. And so I ended up getting a few loads of maple and cherry. And I was pretty happy about that and brought it home and put the blanks up on my high-tech sawbuck there, okay, and cut them out and got some nice bowl blanks out. You know, you never know exactly what you got until you open it up, and a little bit of noodle action there. And so I get this maple, and I guess it's a sugar maple because I got a bunch of bird's eyes in it, okay? But it also has this, I don't know if you'd call it a little bit of a curliness to it, which is unusual. I just have never seen. It's either been one or the other. I've never seen them both together like this. And there you get a little better look at some of the bird's eyes in it. But then a little bit of the curliness, or even I don't know, quilting. If somebody's got a better definition of that, I would like it. But usually the quiltedness comes out of a Western big leaf maple versus any of the stuff we get on the East Coast. But anyway, it had some really nice figure to it. And then the cherry was just pot full of pitch pockets and gum stains all over the place. It really came out nice. I really enjoyed this. I think they're very, very nice looking, and they'll end up making some nice pieces. Some more of the different piece of maple and a different piece of the cherry. And there you can see on the back side of the cherry. And
That wide rim that you're doing there, that's new for you. I haven't seen you do that before.
the wide rim
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it is a rough out. So I'm
Ah,
oh, let's see. I forget. That's about 13 inches, John. So I'm thinking I'm just shy of an inch and a quarter. So they're in a
so
paper bag.
you're gonna turn these things twice.
Yes, yes, they're in a paper bag now. And some of the maple was even big enough to do some coring with. And I did get there's the cleaned up big bowl, and then a little bit. I didn't get any figure out of that, just regular old maple. But the smaller core out of it had a few bird's eyes in it, so that I was pleased with that. And here you can see a little bit more of that curliness and the bird's eye in it.
So do you always, when you go harvesting like that, do you always rough turn right away while the wood is green, and then dry it before for a second turning? Is that your practice?
Well, yes and no. I'll get it when I get it home. I get the ends coated, okay, and so I never take more than I can do in probably 2 to 3 weeks. So I still have a 3 pieces outside that'll be just fine. And so if I can get to them within 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, I'll split a couple of them, bring them in the house, and I'll even coat those if I'm only gonna. It just depends on how I feel and what I want to do, and so they'll last inside here. I've had them in here for a couple of weeks, and when I turn them, they're still wet, and I got no problem with them going bad, if you will. Okay. But I would never leave anything in here for 6 months before I got to it. It'd just be all rotten by then. Okay.
Huh, okay.
I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of.
And then there was the 2 cores there. But anyway, that's all I got. Now I'm a happy camper. I got some good wood to turn and got good exercise, got good sweat up, and so I'm a happy camper.
Questions for Dave? Any questions and comments? You're a quiet bunch today. Okay. Let's see who wants to go next. Ziegler, how about you?
Okay, well, this is quick. A couple of weeks ago on the Zoom, I mentioned to folks that I was down at my mother-in-law's visiting her for about a week, and she wanted me to put up a new mailbox. So I put up a new mailbox, and then she said, "Hey, how'd you like to paint the deck?" So it was like 10 feet by 40 feet. So I painted the deck, and as I was leaving, I decided I'd bring home an antique dry sink that Patty's aunt had in my mother-in-law's basement. I think Don made the comment. I told folks that I called my mother-in-law 90 cent because she just turned 90. She thinks that's funny. Don said you get change, 10 cents change on your dollar. Anyhow, she doesn't keep things. So she had this wooden platter that had been on the dry sink, and it was all moldy and dirty. And she goes, "Oh, just throw that old thing away." Well, I took it home. I didn't turn it, but it turned out to be a burl. And so I just cleaned it up and refinished it. Not that I had anything to do with the turning of it, but it's really a beautiful piece of wood. So that sits on the dry sink, and whatever I've got that I've turned, I just put it on there until I turn something different. But from the cedar post from the mailbox, I thought, well, maybe I could use some of Eric Lostrom's techniques with the skew. So I tried that yesterday, not to much avail, but the cedar is really pretty, and I'd never turned it. My grandfather had turned a vase years ago, so I thought, well, I'll turn something out of cedar. But I still have a long ways to go with the skew. But this was my first attempt.
So you made those shapes with the skew, right? How did that feel?
I tried, but I will confess I had to do some sanding because I had some catches and so on and so forth. And so some of it was the skew. I certainly roughed it out using Lostrom's dance technique that Barry mentioned, and that worked pretty well. But like I said, when I went to actually get into the piece itself, I don't know if the angle is too steep on my skew. I think maybe something closer to 40 or 50 degrees, because some of them, you know, the two that you have, John, the I forget who makes them. I tried to use them, and that was like not working for me. The less angled skews, the 40 or 50 degrees were better. So I have lots of wood out there. I'm going to go back out there, but this is the first one I tried using the skew. And then just I'll bring this on to our meeting, but this is the piece of Murado, and I had never turned it, but I made it for Patty, and I like the way it turned. It's not really thin; it's probably 3/16 of an inch, but I had fun turning this, and I like the grain on it too. It's really pretty.
That's pretty. Yeah, was that one of those 3x3 turning squares? That looks bigger than that.
No, this is about 5.5 inches by maybe 2.5, 3 inches deep.
So you had a plank of that stuff.
Well, I wouldn't call it a plank, but it was a square blank. It was, you know, probably.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
It was probably 6 by 6 by 3 or 4, something like that. So it was fun to turn, and like I said, it's not a spectacular piece, but I had fun making the little bead at the top and what have you. And I chickened out hollowing the thing out because I was going to use John Jordan to get underneath the rim, and I chickened out and I went to carbide because I had to get it done quickly because I was going down to Carolina and I wanted to get it done before Patty's birthday. So I took the carbide cop out and went inside with the carbide. The outside was really smooth with conventional tools though, so I was happy with that. And I'm going to go back and look for some more Murado at Groff and Groff's.
You're not copping out. You're just using a better tool for the
Well,
task.
I do try to pick tools like Ellsworth talks about turning a bowl with just his tool, and he has different ways to approach the wood with his tool that I've been trying to do. It's not intuitive based upon what I learned over the past year. It's a different way to approach the tool, at least the outside of the bowl of the piece. So I've been trying that and trying to use that tool only to turn bowls. I'm getting closer, but I don't want to shame myself when I go to his class in December. I want to have some kind of experience under my belt with this tool. So that's it.
Murado before, and when I Google it, I get pencil. Is it a cedar?
Say that again.
Murado, is it a type of cedar?
No, I think it's like a rosewood substitute.
Yeah, I've never run across it before.
I think it's Bolivian rosewood or Brazil is what I think it is. But I also looked it up in another place and it said it was Brazilian chestnut. So and it has a little bit of figure that's kind of like chestnut as well. So I don't know. It was new wood to me as well.
It has a bunch of names. One of them I think is Paw Pharaoh, P-A-U.
Paw Pharaoh, yeah.
Paw Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Tonewood.
Say again, Jerry?
It's a tonewood used in guitars.
Right.
Tonewood, yeah. Huh.
And what I read is people say they don't like it as much as rosewood, but it's a substitute, and it, like I said, it has very nice grain. Yeah, it has very nice
softer
grain.
than rosewood.
Yeah,
it's softer than rosewood too. So quite a bit softer.
Yeah,
I thought anyway. You know. Questions for Ziegler? Any more? Okay, I see Jonathan Wilson. Haven't heard from you in a while. What do you got? I'm saving Mike and Don for last, and me. Jonathan Wilson.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
So I have an opportunity, or had an opportunity, to turn some ambrosia maple, very, very similar to Dave's scenario, and working the crotch of the tree, I was able to pick up this starburst, and I don't see starburst that well with a little bit of bark inclusion. This was turned rough 4 months ago. It's been in the rack, and it finally came off the lathe Sunday, Monday. And I just figured I'd share with you folks.
That's really pretty.
Wood came out great. We'll just see how it ages. Round and brown is sometimes the way that things go, but the starburst was very, very nice with the bark inclusion / ambrosia coloration. Profile was okay. Not in love with it. Don't hate it. It's fine. But the starburst came out really, really nice.
What finish did you use on it?
This is the old Watco tongue oil, Watco standby. So I generally coat stuff with oil. I can go shiny, but this will matte down nice. And those that pick it up, I think that it's a touch and a smell thing. But that's my go-to with the oil. That's the one thing I have to share, and then I have one more. And somebody was.
Let me say that's a beautiful piece of wood you had there.
Thank you. Somebody was discussing movement. So the cherry burl came in. This is again 3 or 4 months ago. Came off the lathe, left very chunky, much similar to Dave's scenario. Absolute fully encapsulated around the trunk. These look great, look very, very interesting, awesome, right? The takeaway with it is, and I'm telling you folks this, you folks already know this, wood moves and it's gone weird and crazy, right? So the point of it, or the point of my showing this is wood moves, it gets wrinkly, it gets weird. You cover the cracks with the medium glue and hope for the best. And there's 2 pieces, each half, and we'll see how they come out. They're still pretty heavy and still pretty wet, but it's almost wrinkling on the skin. So I just thought I'd share that.
Now, are you going to turn that again, or are you going to be happy with what it's doing there? Like it's with its living sort of wrinkly surface.
Right. So I'll turn it again. The wrinkly surface is interesting. The movement, I think everyone sees that to some extent, but I'll turn it again. I'll twice turn them both.
And where are you coming in from? Where do you live?
I'm out of Connecticut, northern Connecticut, right on the border. I can walk into Massachusetts where I live right now. So
what town?
North Granby, specifically.
North Granby. All right. I used to live in Connecticut. That's why I can ask you that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But much like I turn them all, I get the wood and turn them wide, first cut, rough cut, and leave them wide 1.5 inches or greater, because by the time they shrink down and then get put on the lathe, that leaves me room to work on form, and hopefully I've balanced things enough where they're not too weird.
Very nice. Questions for Jonathan? Thank you. Questions for Jonathan? Okay. Mike Peace, your turn.
Okay. I was getting ready for a club demo last week, and I did this little threaded acorn box out of Osage orange and mountain laurel. Hard to believe that mountain laurel is a threadable wood, but it is. This is 20 threads per inch, so the threads are kind of delicate. It's textured. As I was getting ready for that demonstration, because it's not like riding a bicycle, that hand thread chasing, you got to get back up to speed. And I was turning something out of Patagonian rosewood and ebony. And the cautionary tale, as I was driving down to the club, I was looking at my hand. It was kind of itching, and I had what appeared to be poison ivy here on my wrist, and I hadn't been around any poison ivy, so just all of y'all that have been turning for a while know that some wood you have to be very sensitive to. Not only are they subject to respiratory problems, but also contact dermatitis. And it was either the rosewood or the ebony hitting against my wrist, just created a poison ivy with all the little, pustules popped up, and little cortisone. In a few days it went away, but just be careful when you're turning strange wood. This is a kind of an early viewing of the four ways. It's going to come out on Monday.
Hold it still for a second. Okay.
This is a slip fit box that is our four ways collaboration video project for October 1st. It's a cherry burl. So it's got to be a slip fit, pop fit kind of fit. So it is. You got to pull on it a little bit to get it loose. So that was kind of, this burl was just kind of calling my name for that project, and got a little feature to it. The other thing I want to mention was I bought a Worx electric chainsaw here about 3 years ago. Somebody brought one to a club workshop we had on the weekend on processing wood, and I was just really impressed with this thing. It had an 18-inch bar and chain, and it would just eat wood. It had a 15-amp saw. And then I was using it just a couple of weeks ago, and the switch went out. So I went online to look to see if I can find a replacement part, because everything else seemed to work fine about it. Come to find out, it had a 36-month warranty, and this was month 34. And I called the company up, and they said, well, we don't have parts, so we'll send you a new chainsaw. They didn't have one in stock, but they set it up and sent me a notification a week later it's back in stock, and I called them up, and then they shipped it to me, and I got it about 3 days later, brand new saw after,
Now, is that a plug-in saw or a battery saw?
Yeah, plug in. No, I'm not there yet with batteries, and this is for just working outside my shop when I just don't feel like cranking the still, or I've got old gas and it won't crank, which is more common since I'm not processing all that much green wood. But that little chainsaw, it'll eat anything I'm going to have outside my shop.
I love that saw. I got the same thing. I run extension cords clear across the yard rather than start that wood.
Yeah.
I've got that same saw and have had great luck with it.
Yeah.
Now, what saw is that?
It works. WORX. I did a review on it 3 years ago when I got it, and like I say, I'm not sure I would have bought it except that fellow brought it to the workshop, and I got to try it out. It was like, wow, this thing will flat cut wood. It's about $110, $120, something like that. But it's a very powerful, like I say, 15 amps. It might pop a 15 amp circuit, but it works great on a 20 amp circuit, and it really does the job. And it's awfully handy. I'd rather unroll a cord and plug it in than try to have to get fresh gas and crank up my still.
And one thing you might want to check out too, Mike, is if it's just a switch, yes, the original supplier won't give you a part for it. But I've had the same issue with some of these things, and there are suppliers. If you take the handle apart, the actual switch mechanism, it's just action by the trigger, and you can actually buy that. Like an electronics store has a whole range of these things, and so check around online, and maybe even on Amazon, you can find these replacement switches. So you take the handle apart, take the old switch out. If it's dimensionally will fit. Yeah, I mean, and I've done that a number of times, and they cost like $5 or $10 for the switch, and you basically got a brand new saw.
Yeah, I'll probably just keep it around for parts. Since I got a brand new saw, brand new chain, and I'm good for another 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, is that a lightweight saw as well? Is it easy to use?
Yeah, I mean it's certainly lighter than my still. It's got a pretty good, fair sized motor on it, 15 amp circuit, so I don't know what the horsepower is, but it'll flat cut wood.
Do you know that do they make them in different sizes as well?
They do. They have several different models. It seems like one's like 8.5 amps, and they got one that might be like 14.5 amps, which is real close to this one. I don't know the difference between a 14.5 and a 15, but they're different models.
And so who sells those? Is it you find?
I got it off Amazon. I think some of the big box stores sell some of the models. I'm not sure which ones.
I've been using a battery powered saw with an enormous battery in it, but it's way too big and powerful for me. I'm looking for a plug-in saw. So Barry's waving over there. Barry,
I just looked at it on Amazon. And they make it all the way up to 18-inch, 15 amp.
That's what I've got.
For 129. And then they go on down to 16, 14. That's it. 14 8 amp is $68.
Wow. And that's a plug-in saw with a 3-year warranty.
Yes, I was amazed for that price when I found out they're just gonna send me a brand new saw. No, the customer service was very nice.
That surely is very nice customer service. I'm impressed.
Hey, John, do you know there's 2 ladies on our group who were at the Mid-Atlantic, and I thought maybe we don't hear from the ladies very often. Maybe one of them's a new one, Margaret DeMarco and Sarah Krill. Both of them were there, and I thought maybe they might have an impression. I assume Sarah's still on. I didn't look to see if she's still on.
Yeah, Sarah's there. Yeah, Sarah and Margaret. Let's start with Sarah. You got anything to report from the Mid-Atlantic?
I mean, I enjoyed it. And I really liked Eric's presentations on the skew. I bought one. I'm looking forward to using that. But as far as impressions, it's just a well-run conference. And I went last year and this year, and I enjoyed both. It's really well done.
Okay. How about you, Margaret? Margaret's new to us this week.
Hi, yes, you can blame Jim for that. So I think the most impressive thing for me, because I don't do a whole lot of ornamental work, was the first workshop I went to was Kristen Revere. She had a workshop called Adding Structural Elements to Your Turnings. And if you can imagine, Kristen was a microbiologist before she got into turning. And so her forms tend to be sort of like sea creature kinds of forms. They might have a central piece to them and then a lot of tentacles or something like that, very smooth things. And the most exciting part about her workshop was showing how she put those tentacles onto the base body form and made them look seamless. And when she first started playing with it, she didn't have it down well enough, and she was painting the final product, meaning that she couldn't quite get the match right, so she had to fill it and then she painted it. But eventually she worked out a system that allows her to just really do a seamless piece of work, and I was fascinated by that. I'd also have to say that this is probably the 4th or 5th Mid-Atlantic symposium that I've been to, and they've all been really good. They are chock full. I mean, I would have loved to do the skew workshops because I love that tool, but I couldn't fit it in. There were too many other things that I hadn't seen before. So it's just chock full of things. The interesting thing about the extra workshops that went on between the big sessions, they were in the place where the vendors were, and that tends to be a place that's pretty noisy. So even though you were back in the far corner and very, very close to the people who were speaking, it was still, the noise was a problem. Somehow or other, they're going to have to find a way to soundproof some of that. But I like the idea of having some personal time with people. And some of that means that you can actually try some of the work yourself. The decorating people were handing their tools over to the viewers all the time, and that was fun. Possibly need to do a little bit more time to it, but so anyway, it's good.
Hi, this is Ken. I saw Kristen's demonstrations too, and she uses a thing called bendy wood. It was interesting.
Yes.
It was interesting because they put the wood in an autoclave and they compress it end grain wise. So when it goes together, it's like on a straw, a bendy straw. That's how it is. So that allows her to be able to bend them. I guess it's pretty expensive stuff right now, but it was pretty interesting.
John, by the way, Margaret comes from the Delaware Club. That's how I met her originally. And I said, hey, you might enjoy visiting with us on Thursday mornings. So thank you, Margaret, for risking being among us.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Hey, I wanted to say one more thing about the symposium. I wanted to give a shout out to I didn't catch his name. There was a guy came up to me from Long Island, and he says there's a group of them get together and they watch the reruns of the coffees all the time. And I just wanted to give him a shout out. And he also wanted a selfie with me, which which kind of freaked me out, but it was okay.
Yeah, those guys are members of the Lancaster Club primarily because of Coffee Hour, and they show up on video at the meetings. But and they always watch the videos. I get emails from them. They're really nice guys.
Yeah, they're really cool guys.
Don Smith, what do you got today?
Hello, John. Right. Well, first of all, last week I showed a bit of driftwood. I was given 6 pieces of driftwood, and I've just finished one of the pieces.
Wow. Very nice.
So that's that. Now, following on from your piece last week, your magnetic boxes, I have made one.
Nice box.
Now, I've done mine slightly different to yours, because what I've done is I have covered the magnets on the lid with this ring.
Nice work.
So what I've done is, I don't know if you can see, but just inside there is a little ridge.
Yeah.
And I made the box as you made it. It's got beautiful graining. But before I took the lid off, I made a ring out of a piece of scrap wood and glued that to the lid. And then beaded it so that the magnets that are inside the lid are
covered. Nice. Hold that up a little bit so we can stop waving it around so we can get a good look at it. Okay, now take the lid off and show us the end. Hold that still. And how many magnets do you have around there? 2 or 3 or 4?
I started with 2, but realized it needed 4 because the magnets I bought are 5mm by 5mm and only 0.7 kilogram of pull. But it is still enough because of the fact that the lid literally sits over the body as well as going over the rim of the lid of the body, that is nice and tight. It's quite a big pull, as you can hear.
Yeah. That's
No
a nice
movement.
box. That's a nice technique.
I thought you'd just like to, and then the top's got a bit of a dimple on it. But I thought you'd like to see it, but I made a drawing first. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Nice. Good drawing and good technique too.
Well, I felt it took away the fact that you can see the magnets from the outside.
Yeah. See, I like them on the outside as a decorative thing, but I can also see the appeal of hiding them. That's what I've tried to do before. Yeah.
So that is it for me. Thank you very much. But I thought I'd just show you that.
Hey, Don, could you hold the first piece up and kind of tip it down so we could see the top of it? We only saw the bottom of it before. There we go.
Yeah, hold it kind of still there. Wait, let's get the spotlight back on you. There we go. Now hold that up, hold that still. Yeah. So it's really a seascape with mushrooms is what you made there out of the driftwood.
Yep. And then the underside is got 4 little feet on it.
So it'll stand.
So it'll stand. And then this mushroom and this one is more like a tree with a little seat around the base. And then you've got different sized mushrooms. You've got little button mushrooms here. And this is a banksia nut on the top here.
I see a couple of little tea lights on there too, little battery tea lights.
Yeah, little battery operated tea lights which change color. This was finished half an hour before we came on air.
You're amazing.
I
Thank
was
you very
planting the
much.
mushrooms this morning. But yeah,
Thank you
I've
very
got
much. That's
5
wonderful.
pieces like that. Well, not that are all driftwood.
What finish did you put on there, Don?
I beg your pardon?
What finish?
It's a floor, semi-matte varnish, which you put onto wooden floors.
Ah,
Sounds like waterlocks. Something like waterlocks, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a Ronseal floor. It's a hard varnish.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you hold 1 second, I'll get one piece to show you what.
Duxbury's holding his chuck up there. We're gonna linger here for a second. You want to hold it up there? Oh, wait, let's get.
That's the piece. That another piece that I had, so it shows you what it looks like when I started.
Nice stuff. Thank you very much, Don.
No, thank you.
Before we clock off, Duxbury, have you got your chuck there?
I got it. Can you see that?
There it is. That's it. Yeah.
This is the latest version. You take 2 jaws off your Talon chuck or whatever chuck you've got, and this slide frame goes in there, and the mandrel indexes. That's what it looks like from the side. This is the latest version. I used to cut it right in half, but that's your 180-degree mark, so it got in the way of your indexing. But anyway, this is how it fits. That's the same thing with a screw chuck in it. Very expensive stuff, you know. And this is the same thing with a, what is it, a 5/16 16 bolt for bottle stoppers. It indexes the indexing. You slide this sideways to get your offset, and then you index this to get the pattern to happen where you want it. If I want a precision index, some weird indexing, I use a drill bit, stick a drill bit in between there, and I can get 5/16 or 9/32 or whatever I want. That's indexed.
Amazing.
And I can show. I could just hold up. This is a.
That is so clever.
Can you spotlight me? This is.
Yeah, we see you.
This is the bottle stopper that was made on 4 axes. 4 axes. And this was the same thing, but the axis is, this is at 90 degrees to each other.
Offset, yeah.
Oh, offset. And this is 3 lobes. Oh, a wreck here. Probably at all 3 lobes are offset, I think 120 degrees.
Fabulous stuff. Lebo is asking you if there are plans. There are not. You just have to wing it because Duxbury has shown us this thing. There's nothing to it. It's just a little block of wood with a hole in it and a slot in it, and a tab on the top to index it on your chuck jaws.
Yeah, Woodturning magazine has it in. I don't remember, issue 385, I think, or something.
You go back to the video from this week and freeze the frame on what he showed us a minute ago. You won't have any trouble making one.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But put the block of wood, I found out, put the block of wood in the chuck with the stop on it at 0, and then drill a hole. That way you're exactly centered. Don't drill a hole and try to get it centered.
You know, drill the hole on the lathe. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I
yes.
agree. Yeah. I made one with Jim, and we've made a couple of things myself.
Fabulous. It's a really good feeling. I'm really happy to share it. It's so stupid, but you can do all kinds of things with it.
Yeah.
The real innovation. It's really a fabulous device. You're a genius, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
I showed it to our club, and half of the 2 or 3 members have made it one as well.
Oh,
So thank you for that, Jim.
You got it. You got it. Wonderful.
I haven't made one yet, but I'm going to. So, and on that note, thank you all for a very fascinating coffee hour again. It's 5 after 11. We ran over time. Well, that's so what. We'll see you all next week.
Whoa.